All right, Ezra 7. Let's call this one Be the Reason for Confidence, as in this chapter we're going to see this time King Artaxerxes picking up on the order that King Darius issued to finish the temple, which they ended up finishing. He's now going to send Ezra, what the chapter is going to describe, or who the chapter is going to describe as a scribe skilled in the law of Moses. Artaxerxes is going to send Ezra with a letter commissioning him to do a number of things. Foremost, teach, because he's a scribe, and teaching is probably in his wheelhouse or skill set. But in addition to teaching, he is going to authorize him to make inquiries into the things that are happening in Judah and Jerusalem as they continue to try to rebuild, as God willing, more and more exiles return to Israel. But in addition, he is also going to commission him to carry back more of the things necessary for rebuilding in Israel. And then finally, he is going to, beyond simply building and making inquiries, authorize him to establish courts. And after he sends him with that letter, it is also going to have a provision to the governors on Israel's side of the river, letting them know that the provisions or the costs are to be paid out of the treasuries from their side of the river, making it absolutely clear that the king is not simply giving approval, but as our title suggests, he's given a confident approval to the work that's going on here. Understanding, he is not simply telling them to loot their own coffers to pay for what Israel is trying to accomplish. He gives a free will offering from his own stuff, and likewise, his officials are going to do the same. Really, in a lot of ways, pointing us back to the great kings of Israel who led by example, not simply calling on the people to give everything that was necessary, but giving first. And so this foreign king, for whom, once again, Israel is basically his servant class, he is giving to make sure that they can now find their independence and do it successfully once again. And so at the end of all that, understanding the king did not have to do all that, Ezra gives thanks to God for the way that he has not only shown him favorable treatment or steadfast love in front of the king, but in front of his officials as well. Understanding that the king is not the one who is going to be carrying materials and driving nails. It is the people beneath him who are going to have to get that done. And it seems that Ezra understands it's not only important to have the favor of the king, but the king's officials who are going to be helping him as well. Understanding that without the favor of those he is going to be working with, they could simply drag their feet and make his work a misery. And so he appreciates the need to thank God not only for the favor from the king, but the favor from the people he is going to be working with. Understanding that, going back to the previous chapter, King Darius was effective in inspiring the people, the governors of their territory, to be diligent in helping. And likewise, the next chapter is going to show us that Artaxerxes' letter is actually going to motivate the people in Ezra's day to actually help the people of Israel too. Which reminded me that, going back to the very beginning of the chapter, out of all of the people that God could have chosen to have Artaxerxes send back to Israel, he chose Ezra, a scribe skilled in the law of Moses, who was commissioned not just to bring the materials back that they need to build up the physical structures in Israel, but he was commissioned to teach the people and to establish courts that would hopefully establish the kind of character they would need to stay out of the kind of trouble that got them exiled in the first place. And understanding that in Ezra being described as a scribe skilled, who is also going to show himself to be skilled in later chapters, we're seeing a person who in many ways allows the king to look and say, oh, wait a minute, I remember Daniel and all the stories of the great things that he did. I remember Esther and Mordecai and the great things that he did. Ezra seems to be the kind of person that he can look at in the line of all those people who had already distinguished themselves, even while they were in captivity, as being someone the king could look at and be like, oh yeah, he's next. Which might be one of the reasons why the king was not simply willing to approve the things that Ezra asked for in preparation for moving back to Israel, but he was willing to go into his own pocket and literally tell the people on the other side of the river, give him whatever he needs. That's the value of being the reason that people not only are willing to approve the things that we're asking them to do, but to do that with confidence. And so my prayer for you is my prayer for me. Just as God is taking whatever level of talent these individuals or these leaders he's choosing are bringing to the table and giving them a level of favor with these officials that goes beyond whatever they are actually able to do, God willing, we will allow him to develop not only our abilities, but our character in ways that will encourage him to not only have people approve of the things we're asking, but to back us with confidence.